on metal, glass, plastic. For those that like
Okay,
to
we are live at the Tim Holtz booth. So we're going to show you what's new and get a
So in addition
sample.
to the slick papers and the alcohol ink line, we have other things. And so from a swatch perspective, I like to work on a variety of mediums. This is the alcohol sparkle cardstock. It's a sparkly paper, doesn't have any glitter in it. It's printed like this, so there is no texture to it. I mean, there's a mild texture, but it doesn't have any glitter particles. It's printed this way. We also have a brush metallic. That's another beautiful one. A brush metallic is going to be this one. Just kind of has a silver undertone, but when you put the inks on it, all the inks look metallic as compared to how they look flat with Yupo. You can just see the difference when the light hits it. So sometimes when you think cardstock, like why would I need a metallic paper? Is it going to be mirrored? Not necessarily. This would be like a mirrored paper, like a true metallic. Do you see the difference? So that brush silver, that's what makes it nice, is that it almost just gives it this metallic undertone versus an overtone. If you're working with black, we do have a black alcohol ink cardstock. Now Sharon will rock the black. I don't really use the black because it confuses me. I prefer black cardstock to be under something because I think it makes the color pop. But you have to use a lot of snow cap, a lot of white to get those colors to pop. So I pretty much stick to the translucent stuff. I like to play around with these inks. I like to just do different things when it comes to working with the colors. So I'm just going to go through a demo, and then if you guys have questions, I'll try to answer them along the way or at the end. So first thing we'll talk about are the colors themselves. Now we have 15 new colors of alcohol inks. Those are all these guys. I just took them out of the tin. And these colors are much more intense and much more saturated because really today's alcohol ink user, maker, artist, they're using these alcohol inks with a 91% or higher isopropyl alcohol. If you watch any demos on YouTube or anything, they're taking inks, adding alcohol, and pouring them onto things. That creates a much bigger float of color. And so we needed something because the isopropyl does break down the color. It makes it lighter. So we needed to start with intense colors, so when you added this, you're still going to get that great, vibrant look. These are all the swatches of alcohol inks. We have a ton of colors, but you could just go through and just see the difference in color. Like, for example, cranberry, which was that deep red that we've had in the alcohol ink line forever, and then rosewood. So it's like, okay, now cranberry looks pink, you know. Where before we're like, ooh, this is a deep red. So going through the palette, you can see where we've really thrown in those punches of color. And I think that's also important to know that these colors that we use, they're not a straight Pantone, meaning it's not a specific color, it's actually a blend that creates a new color. And that's also unique because as alcohol ink artists and painters, when you use a single color and you use it with isopropyl, you'll get weird undertones, weird colors that just show up and surprise you, right? So this one, for example, is moss. It's this kind of crazy minty green, but when you use it, you'll get weird shades of blue that show up or brown tones, so a lot of fun. And then, of course, doing some rainbow things, so I'll do some demos there. So those are the color swatches, and then, in addition to the colors, we have alloys, which I will also demo. So alcohol alloys are an intense metallic alcohol ink, and it is different than a mixative. Mixatives we've had in the alcohol ink line for a long time, for many years, and mixatives are designed to mix with these inks. So when you put it with your alcohol inks, they mix and they create this really cool metallic background. You can get it to almost create a polished stone, or you get a really interesting undertone of metallic because a mixative mixes, right? So you can put it in. An alloy, a whole different metallic. This is a leafing metallic. And alcohol alloys, when you use them, they're designed to break away, like become an island and clump. And it gives you a completely different look, a whole different metallic, especially when you put the side by side of just how metallic this is. I'll pass these around so you can get like your perfect money shot for your video. But you'll see on the alloy these chunks of metallic where they just break off, even around the edge. I didn't edge this. This is that alloy floating all the way to the edge of the paper to make it look like you took a metallic marker and went around the edge. It's because of the kind of metallic that's in here. This is made up with a paste, and that keeps that metallic clumped together versus just a metallic pigment that floats across. It's a whole different formulation and a whole different look. Are you getting that money shot? Okay, I'll pass those around because that's very cool. Now, both metallic products are always designed to be used with alcohol ink or with alcohol blending solution. You do need to use at least one of these products with it because this contains a resin. Okay? Regular isopropyl doesn't have a resin. It doesn't have any way to bond these together. So if you are an alcohol ink painter and you just use an alloy with isopropyl alcohol and you don't use either one of these, this will flume off, meaning the metallic, when you touch it, is going to come off on your fingers. But if you use some blending solution, even a couple of drops, or alcohol ink, it's enough resin to bond this metallic to its substrate. So I'll show you what I mean. I'm just going to work on a piece of Yupo, and then I'll get into like the rainbows and the drips and the resin, because we do have an alcohol resin kit now, where you can put resin over the alcohol ink and just give it like just an awesome glass finish. So cool. So substrates. Pick what you want, but I do encourage you, if you're an alcohol ink user, don't play favorites. Yeah, as much as we love Yupo, right? But Sharon's like, but sparkle is cool and metallic is cool. So when you start getting into alcohol inks, just don't play favorites. Just really have a good time playing around with them. The bottle themselves, it's designed to be left open. It has a very small nib. It allows the ink to come up. You'll see that little bead. See that little bead of ink slowly creeping up the nib? You can see it in Laguna. See that little dark drip? The bottle is designed that as soon as you open it, it creates a vacuum, and it sucks up a bit of ink, and that ink will stay there, and that's going to allow the ink to come out, but it doesn't allow the air back in. So even though these have a fast drying time, right, when you put them on the surface, about 10 seconds usually, the bottles can be left open. And that's important because when you're shaking them on and painting and doing things with it, you don't want to have to stop, unscrew, screw it back on, right? I like to work on the media mat. I like to use this palette almost like a checkerboard, so I know what lid matches what. Some people don't care. Some people just mix and match. Are you guilty of that? See? Some people are. You can tell already because they're just like...
Naughty friends.
So I don't open all of them. I'm just going to use what I like. And then I'll use an alloy. Well, wait for it. Give me a time to shake. That was a quick one. So alloys mixatives, these have a mixing bowl. These always have to be shaken. The colors themselves, these are dyes. They don't have to be shaken at all. They will always stay their color. The alloys, I will tell you, and you'll see from the demo, are incredibly intense. Less is more. When you put a metallic on a substrate, there's no takesies backsies, right? When you put it on, it's very hard to get that metallic back off, all right? So using it, normally we would put the felt on here and go to town. We're not going to do that today. Today we're going to work with the alcohol blower. And this is just a rubber bulb. It has these little edges on there. One, so it can fit comfortably in your hand. Two, when you set it down, it won't roll off the table. The opening, much bigger than, say, like a marker spritzer. And this is designed to dispense the air, and you'll see how I use it, that it's not, yeah, you can make splatter paint, you know, you can make fireworks, you can put ink down and hit it and explosion, but this is more about controlling the ink and how it flows, all right? Another thing to know about the blower, don't rest your thumb on the back. That's your intake, okay? So if you do that, it's not really gonna work well. It's just gonna collapse in your hand. So this is about creating this little bulb. Another thing, and I talked about it before, if you see people do this on YouTube, there are people that use straws, okay? And that's okay, but it's really not the best for you simply because you inhale those fumes, right? So if you do it, I know some people, like Jennifer, she'll use it, but she'll inhale like away from the straw. So if you're disciplined enough to do that, it's fine. But you should never inhale right from the surface because those fumes are not good for your lungs, right? It'll make you feel great, I'm sure. You know, you'll think like you're the best artist in the world. Like, this is the most fun I've ever had, but really, it's alcohol ink talking. Yeah, you're like, been there. So when I work with this, I like to take some regular alcohol. Yeah, because right after that video, Jennifer's like, I use a straw. She's like, but I swear I inhale off camera. And I'm
sure,
like, well,
she does.
No, she does, because I watched it. I was like, she does, because it's about being safe. And there are some people that are very disciplined. I use a straw, right? So if I was just going to go, but I just know to like lift my head. But when I see people on YouTube, they're talking, so they're like, and I'm blowing, and it's like as you're doing, I'm like, but you're still close to that paper. So yeah, but this is gonna solve everything. And I even brought one for Jennifer. She did. She's like, bring me one. So I just started with a few drops of 91% isopropyl. The reason I did that is because watch when the inks hit this. They kind of stay a little suspended in that liquid, and you can go off script, but see how different they react on the Yupo versus when you drip it in the alcohol? That alcohol kind of keeps these colors floating a bit. So now when I go in with the blower, I can take these colors and just start to move and blend, and I can control the flow of the color. So see, it's almost like a brush where I can get movement exactly how I want movement. So I'm not sitting there going, right? We're not doing that. This is not like CPR. We're not resuscitating anyone. We're just going in and just treating this like a brush. And that isopropyl also stays wetter than blending solution. Blending solution is like alcohol ink without color. It wants to dry right away. So that's where this just comes in, and you can buy this anywhere. So now we're going to add some aloe. And I'm just going to take this, and I still like to work wet, because you see you'll get just a little bit more float or flow, if you will. So I'm just going to take 1 drop of aloe. And you can see just dripping it. It's like liquid gold. Like, wow, yum. And I also want to break it up, so I can still go in with a little drop of this, right? You can see already how it just breaks it apart. But this always wants to stay together. It always wants to be the life of the party. So I'm going to take a little bit more of the Laguna, and now we're going to go in and just start moving this around. So that little bit of aloe is super, super intense, but watch when I stop. See how this wants to come back together? Watch it. It's wild,
Oh, wow.
Right? So it just wants to regroup. So if you work with it and you just like do this and walk away, you're going to come back to this clump of metallic again. So that's why a little bit goes such a long way. So we need to break up the party. So we're going to go in with some more alcohol, and we're just going to move this around. We're going to push this wherever we want to push this. As it starts to regroup, I'll show you kind of some other things that we can do. I can move this in from the edge, right? Any color I want. So we're going to focus right here and just watch what's cool about the blower. See how it's already starting to like come back together? I can just slowly just break up these pieces. You really can be super delicate with this blower, and if you don't even like that, I don't necessarily need to just use alcohol. I can use alcohol ink as well. Then I'm just going to throw in some blending solution, because a blending solution to me always has a whole different reactive property to alcohol ink. It doesn't need a lot, because blending solution will blend, lighten, and remove color, but it's going to give me kind of a different flow, and you'll see what I mean when I start moving this part around. Okay? See, my blending solution keeps my color intense. Did you see, like before when I just did this in the beginning, my color almost faded away? But blending solution kept my color intense. Another difference. Isopropyl alcohol is designed to kind of dissolve a color, where blending solution, well, that's what it's for. It's for blending. So you can see I'm really able to totally control how this color is. And don't be a contortionist, right? If you want to get a different angle, like just don't, like this is not a good direction to be blowing ink your way, right? Just, you know, just kind of keep that moving around and embrace the space too. You can do a lot of really interesting things with your background. And once you have it, like that 1 drop of aloe is just unbelievable. Has such a cool look, and you can see all those undertones and those blends. It's just really cool. You can do lifting, you can stamp on top of this with archival, you can do embossing, you can do any of those things that you want on there. I prefer to just let this air dry all the way. You can still see that it's kind of wet in there, because you're still going to get some blending happening. As long as alcohol inks are wet, they're doing something. They're reacting, they're blending, they're moving. So, but if you were so committed where you're like, okay, this is it, this is exactly what I want, you can take a heat tool and you can dry it, and everything will stay exactly where it is, and you don't get any other blend. So there's nothing wrong with using a heat tool over your alcohol ink, even on Yupo, just to dry it, and you just have that beautiful metallic. It's pretty unbelievable. But there's other things that we can do. So now we're just going to take a little alcohol. It's a yummy color, boysenberry. Okay. I'm just going to go in with this. All right. Always cool when you see that just break out, right? Just unbelievable. One color, when you just start using the blower, you're able to manipulate it completely different, right? Different than we were when we were able to pounce it, because as I mentioned, this ink, you can just see it. If you watch the paper, you'll just see it start to move. And the blower allows you just to manipulate it. You'll see that when you have this in your hand, it's just, you have total control with pressure, speed, angle, even motion. You see that line I'm creating across? Where it's almost drawing with air. It's really strange. So when you work with it, use it and move it. Don't just sit there and do this. That's pretty cool if that's what you want. But if everything is done like that, it's just going to look like paintball. Yeah. So treat it like brush. Go over here, move, go over here, move. If you want more movement, you can always go back to that, or you can add some blending solution. Another unique thing about having alcohol versus blending solution is that you can spray this, right? You can spray alcohol. You should never spray blending solution, right? So we sell an alcohol ink toolkit that has a mini mister and some paint brushes in it where you can paint. Sharon will be demoing later today. She does all the beautiful painting. She makes things in real life with alcohol ink. I can do this. She can paint a cactus or a butterfly or whatever. So she shows you how a different way to control alcohol inks using them dry, which is very unique. But there's a lot of people that want to spray. They want to create that cool pattern. And the reason you shouldn't spray these is because of that resin. If you were to accidentally spray this in your eyes, you can't rinse this out with water, right? Because these aren't water-based, so they'll just turn to gel. So it's just not safe to do. But isopropyl, fine. If you happen to spray your eyes, it's just going to hurt for a while, and you realize you probably shouldn't do that again. But other than that, totally different. But here's what I love about it. When you see the effect, I have mine, you can see I just colored the tip of mine red, so my mini mister, so I know this is my alcohol ink one, because I have a mini mister with water. And then I'm just going to find out where the spray is, all right? And I'm going to keep my distance, but you'll see when you spray alcohol on this, right, you get a really awesome pattern immediately. Now, it's going to want to self-heal. These are going to start fading away, so give them a minute to blend if you want, and then you can either go in and just, I like to dry it just with a little air. You can see that little bit where it's wet right there? See how I just dried that? And then you could go in and spray it again, but this just gave you almost like an instant galaxy.
And if they don't either right away,
just by spraying it. So, no problem. No, it's just alcohol.
Just alcohol.
Just alcohol. Yep. Because alcohol, like regular alcohol, eats color. That's what it does. This blends color. I know you want to spray that, but do not, right? So if you were to really spray something, I'll show you a whole different look. And this is totally inspired by Jennifer. This is a shout out to Jennifer McGuire. Really, I'm going to say that right now. Shout out. Because when I saw her do this on her blog, I was like, brilliant. Protractor. When I saw this, I'm like, shut. You saw it too. I was like, shut up. That, okay, whatever. But then I had to go find a protractor. So I was like, where do you get one of those? I don't have one. So, yeah, went to the dollar store and I'm like, sport. Yeah. I really don't even know what it's for. I'm sure it's for drawing or something, but it's just the shape of it. So, protractor, piece of Velcro, the hooky side, and just felt from the craft store. And you're making your own ink tool with this. So I'm going to take my strip of felt, put this on, wrap it around, and then just kind of secure it. Just give it a little shimmy. Okay, so you're just kind of hooking the felt into that Velcro. And this is now an ink tool. I'm telling you right now, it's like, shut up. It is the coolest thing I've ever seen. All right, so now I'm going to take my colors, and I want to kind of do a little rainbow vibe going on. So we'll do that. We can use a little Dijon, that would be nice. We use a little green. I think I'm going to use Mojito, because Everglade means business. Yeah, and I'm going to use a little Glacier. Okay, and then we'll still travel to Boysenberry. So we can do this on Sparkle. I'll grab some Sparkle just to show you. Anything. You can do this on, these are the hardcore panels. So these are alcohol ink panels. It's an actual wood that is laminated with the vinyl. And the vinyl acts similar to Yupo. I think it's a little more forgiving. It gives up color, but it does have a texture to it, where Yupo does not. But these are great for doing just kind of cool art boards or paintings or anything like that. So I'm just gonna have some surfaces. I'll have this, I'll have Yupo. Heck, I might even do I might commit to a full piece of Yupo, people. That's a big commitment for me. And so what I'm gonna do is just take my inks and I'm gonna ink up the edge of this protractor. Right? So I'll just take my alcohol inks and just start inking right on that felt. So I'm squeezing some of that color and I'm overlapping the colors. Just putting this on. So it's just freaking great. Because alcohol inks, when you apply them, they have a tendency to always want to replace themselves. So when you put it down and you put another color over it after the first color's down, it wants to replace it. So doing a rainbow is very challenging because you put a color, then when you swipe it, it wants to replace the color above it. So it's like getting it all down at the same time to blend. Well, this is how you do it. So you put all those colors. It doesn't have to be a rainbow. You could do a sky, a desert, you could do whatever you want. And then you're just going to take that tool and you're just going to swipe it across that surface. just to apply your color. And you're just blending it. It's just going to keep blending the way you want it to blend. So if I'm going to do Yupo, so if you wanted to do like a swirl,
Design.
you could do swirl, you could do circles.
Very
It's
cool.
like this whole little, ain't that wild? It's like,
It's very good invention.
oh my gosh. It really was, it just blew my mind. So now I'm going to throw in a little dark tone. So I already kind of have my rainbow lineup, if you will. So maybe I'll throw in just a touch of rosewood now, because rosewood's going to be like a deep, deep red. So maybe that transition into pink, I'll put a drop of rosewood. Once you start creating, you'll see that play. So notice on my rainbow, I didn't use orange. That was Dijon, because I know that red and yellow make orange, right? But greens are funny, because sometimes a yellow and blue makes a weird green, so if you like a green, throw in a green. But you'll really get the ability to just kind of play around with different shades and tones. And you reuse your felts. I mean, when the felt is done, like if you kind of screw up your rainbow, which I've done before, then you can replace it. You can also throw in a little bit of brown in your rainbow. That would make me happy on the inside, but I will refrain for the purpose of this demo. All right, so now I'm just going to go in, same thing, add that. So see what this little bit of rosewood did. And if I keep going down and blending, I can actually pull those colors down. Okay, it's completely up to you how you want to do this. So let me grab a hardcore panel. Is there one in here? You know? Do you see one down in there? If not, I will just stack it.
No, you're
I'll
up.
grab one. No, because they're different. I want to show you. So these panels, because it has that coating, let's see, what do I have to cut this open? Teeth. Fingernails. There we go. Pork chop fingers. They grip like suction cups, man. Tell everyone, they have little fat fingers. You just pull things away. So this one, this is still alcoholic. So alcohol is going to dry. So you have to just see, like, if you have enough juice. Oh, I have enough juice. Oh, this is the other thing where I would use my, if I use that shelf liner one more time, I'm going to just freak my freak. All right, go on the other side. Just going to finish that. There we go. That's going to be a good blend. Could you use alloy on this? Absolutely. You could put a little line of metallic. When you go across, you're going to get that metallic streak. But here's what I love about this, because yeah, rainbows, that's good, but I like to distress it a little bit. So here's what I did. Put this on. I'm going to let this dry. And by letting it dry, I mean drying it. Okay, but you could just wait. Then when we go in with alcohol, we're just going to take our isopropyl alcohol, and it will work on any of these. I'm just going to start at the top, and I'm just going to start spraying this. So I'm not sure who's going to get the best idea. You may need to turn a little bit, but no, just make sure you can catch it. I'm just going to spray this and watch it happen. And you're just going to create that blend.